off than what we expected, but it's still not good.
Okay.
So, Laurie, what you're saying is that maybe you're not any worse off than the 22 days
Oh,
as
no.
we speak? We
Oh,
are
no, we're
worse.
worse
Yeah,
off,
okay.
yes.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Cole.
Okay. Next exhibit I'd like to look at is on exhibit number 4. And this is the exhibit of the communication system, the fiber system. And wanted to go over those numbers, and you have the 16 numbers versus the 15 numbers. And of course, the third column is the variance, the increase or decrease from the prior year. On the revenue side, fiber did better than it did last year, went up from $34 million in revenues in 2015 up to $36 million in revenues, $36,012,000. That's $1.9 million more than what we had last year. I'd like to say this, that on the numbers that were provided by the management, I think the projections were showing that your revenue should be at about $36,500,000. So we're approximately $400,000 short from where the projections were on the revenues for 2016. So pretty much on target. The operating expenses are listed here. You have production, collection, and cost of services. This includes, of course, the programming costs mainly. You've got $14.7 million last year. That went up to $16.2 million this year, $1.5 million increase. Administration and general expenses went from $3,994,000 up to $4.3 million, about $300,000 more than we had last year. Now, here's the next item: is the depreciation and amortization. And last year was $10.8 million. This year is at $6.7 million. Included in your CAFR, and your administration or your staff did a study and some comparisons that were done to other systems that were existing. And we found, and of course we were involved in the tail end of it because they wanted us to review their work, and we concurred with their work. But basically it said that you guys were expending your system a lot faster and depreciating it a lot faster than what it probably is going to actually last. And so consequently those lives were adjusted during 2016 and going forward. They didn't go back and readjust for the prior years. And consequently, the depreciation as stated for 2016 came out to $6.7 million, and last year was $10.9 million. So consequently, the operating expenses went from $29.6 million down to $27.2 million, a reduction of $2.3 million. So the operating income of the system went from $4,486,000 at this line item up to $8.7 million at this line item. And that's $4.2 million better than what we had last year. The non-operating revenues or expenses, which is mainly interest expense for the current year, about $5.4 million net number. Last year, that number was $7.6 million. But if you look at the second to last line item within this category for last year, you had $1.2 million of bond issuance costs. There was some refinancing on some bonds last year, and of course, those are required to be expensed in the year incurred. You will save money in the future years on this. So bottom line, change in net assets for the communication system is a complete flip. It went from $3.1 million at this line item as a deficiency last year to a $3.2 million surplus for the current year, and that's a $6.4 million swing as indicated. If you look down at the bottom, we try and come up with it on a cash basis. We've always talked about this. What is the cash situation relative to adding back the depreciation with the profit or change in net position, the positive change or the negative change? And if you look at this, you take the $3.2 million that we just talked about in positive change for this year, add back the depreciation of $6.7 million, that gives you a positive cash flow to handle your principal and your debt of $9.9 million this year. And last year, that same analogy, using the deficiency of $3.1 million, adding back the depreciation and the bond issuance cost, gives you $8.9 million. So we're up $1 million in positive cash flow, so to speak, for the current year. Again, a positive situation with the communication system. And It looks like this thing is very close to where the projections were. Looks like it's turned the corner and is beginning to make money. Any questions on this particular exhibit? If not, I'd like to turn it over to Brian, and he'll go over a few of the exhibits with you, and it will summarize everything in just a moment.
Good evening, Council. If you want to go ahead and turn to Exhibit number 7 on the handout. Exhibit 7 is the comparative schedule of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund net position for LUS. So it basically just shows all your revenues and expenses of the LUS system, and it's broken down by each department, electric, water, and sewer. Looking at the far left side of the columns, you can see the electric. For 2016, your total operating revenues for the electric department, $173,864,000, whereas in 2015, you're at $181,721,000. That was about a $7.9 million decrease from the prior year. And if you look at the second to last item, your fuel clause adjustment, that's the main item right there, is where you have your decrease. It was $78,153,000 for 2016, and in 2015, you're at $84,910,000. Right below there, you have your expenses of the system, of the electric system. Your total operating expenses, $159,363,000, whereas in 2015, you're at $162,406,000. So overall, you can see your net income based on those revenues and expenses. In 2015, your excess revenues over expenses, $19,315,000, whereas in 2016, you ended up at $14,502,000. Any questions on any of the electric revenues or expenses? If not, we'll go ahead and go to the water. You see your water department for your total operating revenues for 2016, $18,365,000 for 2016, whereas in 2015, $18,135,000. So not much of an increase there, only about $200,000. Your expenses right under. For 2016, your total operating expenses, $20,269,000. That was up about $900,000 from 2015, whereas you came in at $19,341,000. So overall, you can see in 2015, you ended up with an operating loss of $1,205,000. In 2016, you ended up with an increased operating loss of $1,904,000. Now, talking with Terry and his staff, I think y'all have gone through and adjusted the rates on all your separate divisions effective this fiscal year in 2017. And from what we understand, 2017 for the water, as of now, you are looking at it like it is at a profitable point. So those rate increases did help out the situation as we speak right now. Right next there, you see your sewer department. For 2016, you end up with $28,752,000 for your total revenues. 2015, $28,791,000. So not much of an increase there. Right below your operating expenses for 2016, $27,017,000 for 2016, and 15, you're at $26,060,000. The result of the revenues over expenses, you ended up with an excess in 2015, $2,730,000, and 2016 decreased slightly. Your operating income was $1,735,000. And then across the side, you see the total of all your services, your electric, water, and sewer. 2016, you ended up with $220,982,000 for your total operating revenues of all three departments, and your total operating expenses for all three departments, $206,648,000. Overall, you ended up with an excess of revenues over expenses in the amount of $14,333,000. Right below there, you have your non-operating revenues and expenses of the system, mainly is interest expense and also some of your investment earnings. You ended up with a net expense of $7,179,000. In 2015, you're at $6,114,000 at that line item. Overall, you can see your overall net change in your net position. For 2016, you ended up at $7,154,000, and that was an increase, an excess of revenues over expenses. In 2015, you end up with an excess of $14,726,000. In 2016, that excess of $7 million combined with your beginning net position of $496,955,000, you ended up at the end of 2016 with a net position of $504,110,000. Any questions on any of the items within the separate divisions or in total?
Yes, sir. Mr. Lewis.
Yes, I have a question. Far left at the bottom, you have other net. What is that?
Other net is just some other small items, miscellaneous items. Not sure exactly what offhand those different items are, but it's just miscellaneous items that really don't fall into the categories of these other items.
So it's no spreadsheets that goes with it in this booklet, then, correct?
Right. There's no other spreadsheet, but we can find out if you need to know that information. We can certainly get it for you.
That'd be okay. Thank you.
The correlating dollar amount is what, 18,632? Does that for this year?
Yes.
That's what that other amounts to?
And last year was like 91,428.
Right. Yeah. If y'all have the opportunity to identify what those things are and get them to Mr. Lewis, we would appreciate that.
Certainly, yep.
Okay. Brian?
All right. If you want to turn to exhibit number 8. Exhibit 8 is just a recap of all your different services, and we kind of break it down by your approximate number of customers. And keep in mind, the approximate number of customers are your commercial and residential, so we just combine it to get an overall total. So your average commercial customer, their bill is going to be more than what you see on this paper. As such, the actual amount for the residentials will be probably less than what you're seeing on this paper. So it's just a real rough average that we're using, but we do apply it consistently through all years, just so you can get a look at how the overall system is doing on a per customer basis. So if you look at your first one, you're on your electric, your approximate number of customers, 2014, you're at 65,262, increase into 2016 to 66,325. What that equates to is your sales to customers, your total sales. For 2014, you end up at your about $256.98 per customer per month, and that number did decrease in 15 to $229.98, and down in 16 as well to $218.45. So that's your revenues for the per customer per month. Below there, you have your operating costs, which is also broken down per customer per month. For 2014, your costs were right about $228.35. 2015 went down slightly to $205.53, and then in 16 it's down even further to 223 cents per customer. And what that comes down to is you can see your excess of revenues over expenses, which is basically available for future capital improvements. For 2014, you had an excess of right $28.63. In 2015, it went down to $24.45. And then again in 2016, it went down to $18.22 per customer per month. So it's still showing profitable per customer per month. Right next to it is your water. You can see your water, your total revenue, your revenues per customer per month. For 2014, you're at $27.23. It went up slightly in 15 to $27.42, and then went back down again a little bit to $27.40 in 2016.
Hold 1 second, Mrs. Jobin. Ms. Toops?
I apologize. As he goes over these numbers, I'm thinking my average water bill and electricity bill isn't this high. So I wanted to point out to you that it is an average, and it includes the large commercial customers. So it's taken the gross number and dividing by all customers, treating a large commercial business the same as a single or two-person household. So while the numbers seem large, it's just a general average.
Okay.
Right, that is correct. It is just an average. Like I said, your commercial billings may be higher, and your residential should be lower than this. So your total operating costs for the water, 2014, you're at $28.84 per customer. 2015, it increased to $29.25, and then again in 2016, increased even further to $30.24. And then if you can see on the bottom, what your net result is, your operating loss on the water department for 2014 per customer, you're losing about $1.61. In 2015, that increased to right at about $1.83 per customer, and then in 16, it increased even further to $2.84 per customer loss. Again, y'all did increase rates, so that should help curb these losses that we're seeing in the water department. Right next to it, you'll see your sewer department, your total sales to customers on the sewer department for 2014. You're at $55.30 per customer. In 15, it increased to $55.47. And then in 2016, it did decrease down to $54.12. Below there, you have your operating costs associated with it. In 2014, you're down to $49.49 per customer. In 15, it went up to $50.21, and then in 16, it went up further into $50.86 per customer. The result of that, you had an excess of revenues over expenses. In 2014, you're averaging about $5.81 excess. That did decrease in 15. It was down to $5.26, and then further decrease in 2016 down to $3.26. Any questions on any of these items that are covered? And on the bottom of it, you just have the total of all three services. I won't go through those, but you can see overall you have an excess per customer per month on all three services combined. If not, we can go to exhibit number 9. Exhibit 9 is just your environmental services, which is basically your garbage. And we have basically the same rough average on this. So your total sales to customers, your average sales per customer per month in 2014, you're at $31.64. It did increase in 2015 to $31.97, and then went back down to $31.64 in 2016. Below there is your operating costs as well associated with those services. In 2014, $29.89 per customer. Increase in 2015 to $30.43, and then in 2016 decreased to $29.87. So overall, it resulted in an excess of revenues over expenses, which was available for capital improvements. In 2014, you had an excess of $1.75 per customer. In 15, went down to $1.54, and then in 16, went back up to $1.77 per customer in excess. Any questions on any of those items?
Yes, sir. Mr. Lewis?
Yes, I see that line item on the sales to customers. You have grass cutting.
Yes.
What exactly is that?
It's just if someone is not maintaining their yards, that's the amount you're charging to go out and get those yards cut.
So,
It's being lumped in with the environmental services fund.
so you're saying that if someone not keeping up their property,
Right.
we call someone environmental services, and that's what they charge the person that's not keeping up their.
Right.
Remember, though, this is the rough average of the 38,000 customers. So that's how we're basing it just on the revenues, but obviously they don't charge them just 59 cents to go do this. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's based, like Brian said at the initial point, and also Laurie mentioned, it's just rough averages considered commercial and residential, and these are the rough averages on this.
Ms. Stoops?
I wanted to add, that's the people who pay.
Yeah. That's,
Because there are a lot that don't pay, and we have to go through and get it on their tax bill. So this is just the people who comply and pay when they're sent a bill for grass cutting.
so there's no extra pay, because I have some constituent, when they're not keeping up their property, they receive a bill of somewhere as high as $500. So how does this equivalent to that?
So he's taken that $500 and divided it across the whole population of the city, which most of the people pay.
Well, it's over the customer base in the Environmental Services Fund. So we take all the revenues that we've collected, the $300 that we've collected or that the government's collected, the $500 here and there, all of that's lumped together into the revenue, and then we're going ahead and dividing that by the number of environmental service customers, garbage customers.
So I guess what I'm getting at is not on their bill. It's just this here, what we represent right here, is not on their utility bill.
Right.
No, it's a separate charge, as I think as Laurie's pointing out.
Okay. But then if it's not reflecting on their bill, why is it a line item right here? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Because the environmental fund is responsible for taking care of the grass cutting and that type of services.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Continue on, sir.
Okay, Burton, you
Okay.
want to go ahead?
Let's look at Exhibit 6, which is the final exhibit that we're going to go over. What we've tried to do is, I've gone over the general funds of the city and the general fund of the parish. You have other funds. You have a lot of special revenue funds, which you collect and money is for a specific purpose either through ad valorem taxes or whatever. And of course, you spend those money. Those are all in the special revenue funds. You also have some debt service funds. Then, of course, Brian has just gone over the LUS funds. And so what we're going to do in Exhibit 6 is bring in all of these funds, total revenues of this government that came in versus how much we spent for this government, and how do we end up the year. And some years you have a positive number, and other years you have a deficiency number. We'll look at that in just a minute. Both of the years respectively here do have positive numbers. Total revenues brought in by LCG in 2015 fiscal year, towards the middle of the page, total revenues, $610,849,000. And in 2016, that number went down by approximately $10.5 million, down to $600,299,000. The bulk of that reduction is in the form of sales tax. If you look at the increase or decrease column, the second line item, that went down by $3.9 million. And then, of course, as Brian just pointed out, the enterprise funds, which is mainly the LUS funds, the fuel adjustment charges went down, and consequently the revenues went down by about $8.6 million in the enterprise funds. Those two items basically account for the $10.5 million reduction in total revenues brought in by this government from 15 into 16. Now, the expenditures, how was the money spent? And you can see it's all the different categories that's required under governmental accounting, the general government, the public safety, the public works, health and welfare, the culture and recreation, of course, the enterprise fund expenses. But the total spent by this government, including debt service and capital outlay, was $573,708,000 last year. This year, we spent $583,349,000, about $9.6 million more than we spent last year. And if you look at the right side, again, the increase or decrease column, you can see the enterprise fund expenses, which mainly is the fuel adjustment charges. Those expenses went down by about $11 million. But our public safety expenditures went up by $5.5 million. And if you look at payments to the escrow agent, which is for refunding of some bonds, that's up about $6.9 million. So those three factors pretty much account for the increase of the net number of $9.6 million. The excess or deficiency at this line item, taking the revenues minus these expenditures that we just talked about, would give you, last year you had an excess at this line item of $37.1 million. This year we're down to $16.9 million. We're $20 million difference. You can see the numbers with $10 million reduction in revenues, and we spent $10 million more than we did last year, hence the change of $20 million. Then you have the other revenues or expenses, and in this case it's mainly the interest on the utility debt and the fiber debt. 19 million last year. It was 17.9 million for the current year. The net number at this line item of other expenses, 18,100,000 last year, 16.2 million this year, a reduction here of $1.9 million. The excess bottom line for the spending for this government for last year, we had an excess of $19.1 million. This year, we're at $751,000. Again, we went through several of the factors as to what happened, from reduction of sales taxes to reduction of charges in the enterprise fund due to fuel adjustments, as well as refinancing of some debt. But overall, it still is a positive number, and as I said at the onset, in some years you're gonna spend more than you bring in, and that's why you draw upon your surplus. And thank God we do have a surplus in most of the funds that you have. Some are not as large as what we would like for them to be. But overall, not a bad situation. And this is, of course, the first full year of this administration for this government, because as you know, last year we reported, but 10 months of that report was from the, 10 months was under the old administration, and 2 months were under the new. So anyway, this is the first year of this reporting. Any questions on some of the items that we have talked about that we might try and answer?
Mr. Conk?
Not so much a question, Mr. Burt Holt. It's something I brought up at the beginning of budget hearings last year. It's a bit confusing when we try to explain to our constituency, for example, on the parish budget, that we have a serious financial issue on the parish side. City of Lafayette, okay, utility system, doing really well. And yet, when we look at the numbers, as you just have reviewed, a $600,000 figure is generated in terms of revenue. And in fact, just this afternoon, I met with the mayor president on this and asked him in the upcoming budgets to delineate more clearly exactly how much money we have coming in from the parish, how much money is going out of the parish budget, City of Lafayette budget, expenditures and revenues, Lafayette utility system, communication system. I think we're doing ourselves as elected officials a disservice, and I think best case scenario, we are misleading the public in terms of exactly how much money we have to spend in the parish. The parish at this point is broke.
It is.
And yet if we look at a budget that we adopted last year of $600,000, the constituents say, why are you complaining?
Right, you have 600 million, I think you said 600,000.
600 million.
$600 million.
600 million, I
Bruce.
stand corrected.
I agree with you, but again, you're restricted in certain ways in which you can spend the monies. You can't spend city monies on the parish general fund.
Thank you, that's the point.
And that's what people need to understand, and you're absolutely correct. The parish general fund is going bankrupt.
And I did make the request this afternoon of the mayor president that the upcoming budget be more clearly defined as to where are the revenues coming from on the parish side as opposed to on the city side, and where is the money going out in terms of expenditure. Because if we're going to try to explain to the constituency in Lafayette Parish why we are such in dire financial straits, we have to get away from misleading them by telling them that LCG has a $600 million budget. It's not fair. The parish does not have that kind of budget.
I agree with your analogy, and what you've asked the mayor president to do is to break out this particular, we just bring in everything together here, but you're absolutely correct. You've got to break up that pie so that you can look at what you can do with certain slices of that pie.
Keeping in mind, though, that the taxes, the pie is not good. It's not edible, is it? In terms of the property taxes, the other thing that we need to be very clear about is that the majority of these taxes are dedicated. And if I'm to understand what you're reporting on here is basically the general fund.
Correct.
That does not include the property taxes that are dedicated for very specific purposes like the jail, drainage, roads, bridges, whatever.
That is correct.
Okay. It's just that if we're going to do a fair job of reporting to our constituency of our financial situation, that we have to be very clear as to what's the parish and what's the city, what's LUS, and what's communications. And I would hope moving forward, we make that delineation. Because otherwise, we're not treating ourselves fairly, and we're certainly not treating the public fairly.
I would agree with you, Bruce. It is all delineated in this book, but it's 271 pages. And but it is all here because that's the way it has to be reported. But we're just trying to summarize things in this particular setting.
And I would like to avoid that moving forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
And just for the record, when you say submitted, you presenting this to us, but this has to be submitted to the state auditor.
It has been submitted, Mr. Boudreaux, once we met with the administration and it was all finalized. You're required to submit it to the legislative auditor's office within 6 months of the fiscal year end, so which is April the 30th. The report was submitted to Baton Rouge, has been submitted to Baton Rouge. Whether they've put it on their website, I'm not sure. I didn't check it today.
Ultimately, they do.
Ultimately, they do. They take their time with certain things, and then they put it out, and it's a public document at that point. But it has all been reported. Everything is good. You did have a single audit again this year. That has to be reported under the federal clearinghouse. That reporting was also completed as well. So everything is good up until we get to this current end of this fiscal year.
They move fast on some things, though.
Yes, they do.
Mr. Kunk would like to talk again.
Okay.
No, Mr. Conk would like to ask the question. Could you provide this in electronic form?
Sure. In fact, we have it in electronic form, and I think it maybe has been submitted to you in electronic form as well.
If you would submit it to Council Clerk, please.
It should be posted on our website already, I believe.
Government does move fast in some cases.
Yeah.
Bond disclosure deadlines that require us to have it out there April 30th.
Would you still like her to send it directly to you?
Yes.
Just send it to him, Laura. See all those staff people in the audience, they're shaking their head. They're gonna send it to you.
You'll get 5 copies, 5 emails.
Any additional questions?
Mr. Nakin.
I guess it's not a question, but maybe you can elaborate. I get a lot of calls, and a lot of times, just like we're talking here, the public, and including myself when I got on the council, really doesn't understand some of what we're talking about because it's overwhelming. But the way I look at it is there's two sides to a coin. When it comes down to one side, we can say overall the public in general doesn't like government to have free exposure to money in the general fund because they feel that we can spend it on anything and everything and it's a waste. And therefore, most people would vote no or would say that's not what we want. And I respect that. But what we're finding out here on the parish side, on the other side of the coin is we want things dedicated. Well, when we dedicate it in certain areas, if those dedicated funds are insufficient to run the parish, you're also handcuffing the government because now you can only operate within those dedicated funds. You can't go grab money from this general fund or you go grab money from other entities and just fix your deficit, so to speak. Because I had a lot of people say, well, let's just go take money from another dedicated millage that's
Cannot do that.
It has the
It's
reserve.
illegal.
So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. Most people might be aware of it. Most people might not be. So this government is in a very sticky situation because in a lot of cases on the parish side, we're tied because we want dedicated millages and we want dedicated funds. But then when those funds are underperforming,
We got to go to the general fund.
got to go to the general fund.
And then if there's nothing in the general fund, Kevin, hence the problem.
Exactly. So I don't know how, as a community, we come together or how do we figure it out, but that's basically what we have as a government. Either we have funds or we get new revenue that goes to the general fund, in which gives administration and the legislative body to fix things that pop up that we need done, whether it's roads, bridges, whatever the case may be, courthouse. And then the other flip side is we handcuffed on some areas because we can't just grab money from another to fix a hole here because we're handcuffed, we're dedicated. So I don't know how do we come together and educate the whole community, but at some point, something's gonna have to give because, I just see it as a serious issue, and when I bring it up to my constituents, when you break it down in that way, then it kind of, oh, okay. You know, so if we as a community want money to be earmarked and dedicated, then we got to make sure that we're charging enough to keep up with operations, or that fund would be less, and then you got to go back to the community to put more money in the piggy bank.
Right.
And other people say, oh, well, let's just grab from the other. So I don't know how we get there, but I'm looking at these numbers, and it's exactly what I feared was that in the parish side, we can't just go to the general fund because you don't have any money there. And you can't just take from another dedicated millage that might have 30 million in reserve or might have, 500,000 in reserve. It's just some directions very difficult. And so and you can't go to the city and take their reserve, so I see it not only in the eyes of my constituents and the community as a whole, and I like to fix things, but I can tell you, I don't know how you fix it.
It's going to be a very difficult fix, if not impossible.
Yeah, okay, that's all I have, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Coulter, the only other thing that maybe, I don't know if you're able to address it at this time, but obviously there's been a lot of coverage of a recent failure to renew a couple of millages here in Lafayette. As our auditor, have you started to try to wrap your hands around that in any way as to our future, and if something isn't done about these millages, what impact it could have on this government?
The only thing that I can see that you could do, Mr. Boudreaux, would be to reduce the services, and I think both of these millages, one was for the jail and one was for the maintenance of the facility. You'd have to shut down all or a portion of that jail because you don't have the money to operate it. And as Kevin indicated, you don't have any reserves in the general fund that you can draw upon to be able to help you fill that hole, so to speak, and be able to pay for that. The maintenance of the courthouse, if we don't have that, again, we don't have the general fund, we're going to have to reduce services that are available to the public. You have no choice. You can't take it from another dedicated source that might have monies, or from the general fund who has no monies. So you're kind of between a rock and a hard place here.
All right. Well, there don't seem to be any additional questions. Is there anything, Lori or Joe, you all want to add at this point? No? Okay. Well, Bert, you got a closer?
I just wanted to mention that it's again, a pleasure to work with this group and this administration. And we appreciate the business, and we, of course, we would love to continue this service to this group.
We pay you for this?
You have to, yeah. Unfortunately, we can't work for free. But again, in conclusion, we do appreciate your business, and it's always a pleasure to work with this group.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Ryan, thank you so much. Any blue cards on this? Thank you so much. Okay, let's move to resolutions. Again, this is a public hearing, and blue sheets are available for anyone wishing to address the council. The 5-minute rule does remain in effect. Jeremy, item number 7, please.
Resolution 18, 2017, a resolution of the Lafayette City Parish Council authorizing the filing of an application with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security for an Assistance to Firefighters Fire Prevention and Safety Grant for the Lafayette Fire Department.
Motion by Nakan. Second by Conk. Mr. Nakan.
Chief, can you come up for a second?
Yes, sir.
Are these the typical grants that we try to get every year?
Yeah, that's the annual grants with fire prevention. We do one for fire prevention, do one with for fire suppression for the SAFER grant. Right now, the SAFER grant that we apply for 20 firefighters is being reviewed by the feds.
Okay, and is there any matching or any funding, and does it come from the city side?
On the fire prevention side, it's an 80-20 match,
Okay, we got to put up 20%?
20%.
Okay, and that's coming out of the
that comes out of the fire prevention's budget.
Okay, we're pretty good in that
Yes.
area
Yes. To be able to take care of it if we're successful, right?
okay, all right, that's all I have. I just want to make sure we're not overextending ourselves and all of a sudden we don't have any money in that fund to
Oh, no,
pick up
no.
the difference or whatever.
We're okay with that.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Any other council discussion? There is none. Any blue cards?
No, sir.
Please call the vote.
District 1, District 2,
Yes.
District 6,
Yes.
District 7, District 8, District 9. Motion is approved. Resolution 19, 2017, a resolution of the Lafayette City Parish Council providing for canvassing the returns and declaring the results of the special election held in the Parish of Lafayette, State of Louisiana on Saturday, April 29th, 2017. To authorize the renewal of special taxes therein, 2.34 mills property tax renewal for maintaining, operating, and improving the Lafayette Parish Courthouse Complex, and 2.06 mills parish property tax renewal for maintaining and improving the minimum security detention and correction facility.
Motion by Nakant, second by Lewis. These are the failed initiatives that was brought before the people that we just spoke about, but the law still requires that we accept the results. Council discussion. Any blue cards?
Andrew Abear.
Mr. Hebert.
Told you I'd be back. It's called taxation with equal representation. On the parish side, each of the council members represent between 9 and 14% of the population. That is called taxation with equal representation. That's what you have here. I asked to speak because I filled in 2 blue cards initially. One is a parish resident, one is a city resident. It's interesting that you ask the citizens of the parish separately to vote for a separate property tax. You're willing to hear our voice separately at the voting booth. But when I come here as a dual resident, you do not recognize me as either one or one. That's what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to solve this problem. I'm glad we got an accountant, because the budget is very much a problem. In a consolidation in any business, when you merge 2 businesses, you don't end up with 2 sets of books. You end up with 1 set of books. And that's what has to take place. And that's why I asked for the constitutional requirement that says the parish will take over the debts of the city, because the parish now is empowered with all the rights of the city. Therefore, there should be 1 Lafayette consolidated government property tax, not 2, because you are 1 government. So all I'm asking for you to do is solve the problem, convert all of the city and parish property taxes to Lafayette consolidated property tax, where we get equal representation amongst this body. It's interesting because you call for a property tax for the city of Lafayette and the parish of Lafayette. But when you rolled up the millages, you did it with 1 ordinance. You let me vote 2 separate property taxes. But when you roll it up here and roll it back, and I come to speak to you as 2 separate voters, you put it on 1 ballot and you give me 5 minutes as 1 voter. I am 2 voters. The next time you roll up the millages, I suggest you put them on 2 separate ordinances, so those of us who have 2 separate voting rights can have 2 separate 5-minute speeches, an opportunity to voice our opinion. And I think that is the direction you need to go into. We need to look into 1 voice, 1 total tax for everyone, not 2 separate budgets. And I think it's your obligation as our elected council. I know some of you have inherited this problem from years ago, but we can solve it. I believe Mr. Cox said treat fairly everyone. I think Ms. Cook said, represent all fairly. You have a golden opportunity to solve that problem because the technical report said that the consolidated government will not solve the parish problem of financing. From the get-go, this was inevitable. Unfortunately, not too many people read it, but I did. I'll be back. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cohn?
And I don't mean to engage in any form of the debate here, Mr. Hebert, but when it came to rolling forward of the individual property taxes, each one was voted on separately. Each had a separate ordinance. Am I correct?
Thank you. Any other blue cards? Okay, please call the vote.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 8? District 9? Yes. District 1? Motion is approved. Resolution 20, 2017, a resolution of the Lafayette City Parish Council providing for canvassing the returns and declaring the result of the special election held in the City of Lafayette, State of Louisiana, on Saturday, April 29, 2017, to authorize the renewal of a special tax therein, 1.13 mils property tax renewal for maintaining and operating public buildings.
Motion by Conk, second by Nakam. Council discussion. There is none. Any blue cards?
Andrew Hebert.
Bear.
This is called taxation without equal representation. Y'all sent me a copy of the number of registered voters by district. I broke it down for you. I gave a copy to the clerk so all of you could have it. According to the information I've derived from the voting records, the City of Lafayette, the council represents less than, one of y'all represents less than 6% of the City of Lafayette population. One of y'all represents 100% of the city population. That is a 94% spread of equal representation amongst the council. I believe that's not what our Constitution was founded upon. I believe we founded upon taxation with equal representation, which the parish has. Now, you can solve that problem simply by going to the U.S. Justice Department.
Andy, do me one favor, because
Okay.
I love your arguments. I love to hear you talk.
You want to
You
stay
did a good
on
job
the
on the
ordinance?
parish one. Yeah, you did a good job. As I was listening, you made sure you kept implementing the parish that was before us, the parish millage. Make sure you stay on the city millage.
City
front.
millage, okay. On the city millage, and Bruce, you might be right, but as I recall, y'all rolled up the city millage with the parish millage, but I'll be sure to check that in the records. But I know they've done it in the past that way. Again, the solution to the dilution of the City of Lafayette voters is to have one elected body, parish-wide, Lafayette consolidated government, property taxes, sales taxes, everybody's in the same box. Everybody's got the same representation. Everybody has equal voices. So when I fill in a blue card that says I'm a registered city voter and a registered parish voter, I would like to have the same two voices you allow me when I go vote at the voting booth. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
Next speaker, please. None other. Okay. Sure. Okay, yeah, no other discussion. Call the vote, please.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 8? District 9? Yes. District 1? District 2? Motion is approved.
Thank you. Now we will move to ordinances for final adoption. Again, this is a public hearing, and blue sheets are available for anyone wishing to address the entire council at one time for 5 minutes, be it from the city or the parish of Lafayette, okay? Item number 10.
Ordinance 55, 2017, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council declaring the building or structure located at 719 North Sterling Street, Lafayette, Louisiana, owned by Michael Keith Bernard, to be dilapidated and dangerous to the public welfare and ordering the condemnation of same.
I'll entertain a motion. So moved. Motion by Mr. Nakane, second by Mr. Lewis. Council discussion. There is none. Are there any blue cards for this matter?
First speaker, Michael K. Bernard. That's the information in the folder that he provided.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Y'all tabled the vote last time about the condemnation of the house I own. Since last we met, I produced a sales agreement last time. Now I'm producing correspondence between myself and Tootin Title Company to buy to sell the house. And in the process, to have goodwill with the council, we've tried to do some work on the house. I called, the outside was not worked on, but that's because Brandon's contractor went over there and he said it was made of asbestos. So you have to hire a licensed professional company to remove it. So he's in a process of he's called a couple of companies out of Baton Rouge. And instead of working on the outside, so did some work on the inside, gutted in, that's kind of itemized there to save time. Gutted the inside of the house. We had to level off the house. I hired Troy Huval to level it off, and then we removed all the old flooring in there, exposed the hardwood floors. In the kitchen, we put paneling up and primed and painted all the walls, and we repaired the part of the ceiling that was bad. In the living room, we redid all the walls and painted it a coral color, but it's pretty much itemized right there. And we've been, y'all had asked for us to correspond with Mr. Randy Viator, and Brandon and I both have been in correspondence with him and with Mr. Lewis. And I think Brandon might be able to explain to you what's going on with the asbestos.
Randy, that was an inquiry. Do you have any current photos by any chance? Other than the last
Yes,
one?
y'all should have them, the photos.
You go for it. Thank you. While they're looking at that, any other blue cards?
Next speaker, final speaker, Brandon Calhoun.
Mr. Calhoun?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, I've been working with Mr. Michael about the asbestos. Basically, we've reached out to a couple companies in Baton Rouge that have professional services of removing the asbestos, because they have to have hazmat suits and everything to take it away. So therefore, we've been just basically corresponding with them, trying to get a date for them to come over and remove all the exterior siding.
Okay, hold on one second.
All
Mr. Castile?
Did you purchase the property yet?
No, we haven't.
Closing on it, sir.
Been 30 days and you hadn't closed yet. What's the issue? Why is it taking so long?
We wanted the assurance that if we purchase the property and fix the asbestos, the siding, that we wanted the assurance that it will not be condemned and knocked down. So therefore, if we invest the money and fix the property and bring it up to code, we want the assurance that it will not be condemned and knocked down, basically.
When you plan on purchasing the property?
As soon as we have a clearance of, once we fix it up, it's brought up to code. If we have a clearance that something may be in writing or something that assures us that we won't waste our money, basically.
Are you gonna be putting all this money into this house and you don't own it?
Well,
Big risk.
yeah, it's a risk, but, I mean, that's why I'm here.
The asbestos issue, how long you think that's gonna take you to solve that issue? Get it removed?
Well, as soon as we get word, whenever they can come over to Lafayette from Baton Rouge, because we research and try to find companies here that remove it, but we haven't found any. So it just depends on their time frame.
Okay, well, I understand you're doing some of the inside stuff, but, you know, with the outside in this condition and what it looks like, you know, that's the issue we've always had, this council's always had, was things that look like this in the neighborhoods that we live next to.
Right.
You know, this is not acceptable.
Correct.
And this continues to go on, and it's dragging. Eventually, we're gonna pull the plug on this, just to let you know. Thank you, that's it.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes, Mr. Bernard and Mr. Brandon. Mr. Bernard, you did mention that you had communication with Mr. Randy and myself, which you did. And I explained to you guys last time we had a meeting that, and I explained to you, Mr. Brandon, that, are you sure you know what you're getting into? And now you're coming back, you're having asbestos, which we wasn't aware of. Now there's another problem. And you're waiting for the contractors to come. You're also asking for some type of letter or permission that this house will not be demolished. We cannot give you that. You know, so like I told you before, make sure you know what you're doing, and we gave you 30 days. Mr. Bernard, you and I talked about that. You had 30 days, and you're still not doing anything. I mean, you're doing something, but not up to what we're asking you to do. But you can have a bond and do what you need to do, which we had explained to you before. Y'all can put up this bond and do what you have to do. If you bring this house up to par, up to what Rand is asking you to do, I don't see where you'll have a problem. But I'm not going to give you, you asked me to give you some type of waiver. I'm not going to give you anything because I don't know what y'all going to do. This has been going on how many years, Mr. Bernard? Many, many years. This is not the...
Yeah, it started when my father owned the house.
Okay, that's all I can say right now. Thank you.
Mr. Nake?
Any particular reason why y'all didn't go after that bond after y'all left that meeting? Because that would have been your assurance you'd have had the property. That would have been your assurance that your investment would have been safe if you'd have took out the bond. Any reason you didn't go after the bond?
Well, at that time, we didn't know exactly what the bond entailed, basically.
Oh, no. You came to the meeting, you left with the information explaining exactly what the bond was going to do, and as an investor, go and get the bond, and you doing what you say you're going to do and fix the house and do that, your investment would have been safe sound. Now you're coming back asking us to delay it or do something again to buy another 30, 40 days. That's why we normally, typically as a council, we go ahead and vote to support Mr. Randy Viator and his staff and have you guys work it out on the back end. Because had the bond would have been approached, you wouldn't be right here. You would have had all the time in the world, could have moved forward. Your company, you, yourself, your business would have had protection, and you'd have had that guarantee that your investment was sound and sealed, delivered, and you could have made all the improvements, got your bestest company in, and we wouldn't be even sitting here again. That's the truth. That's the facts. So I don't know why you didn't approach that after, and that's really what my issue is. You know, we gave the time delay, but you also had time to go get the bond. Mr. Randy, did they talk to you about a bond? Did they even get the information?
Yes, I explained to them that even though y'all would pass the ordinance, they still have time to get the bond and everything, but, you know, it's going to either be a cash bond or a surety bond.
And how much was this bond costing?
They can, 50,000 cash bond, or it'd be a percentage of the 50,000, which would run like $1,500.
Okay. I'm not trying to get into numbers, but I'm just saying, that's where I'm at on it. I really wish you would have done what you said you were going to do, and I think this council as a whole, since I've been here 5-6 years, we pretty much go with our department because we find that you leave the door open for this. 30 days, you're back again, same story, same song and dance. I think we did enough, and I think we educated you enough, and I don't feel that you took the opportunity to take us serious and try to really make a move on this. So I'm gonna vote to go with this ordinance and follow Mr. Randy Viator. I mean, something should have been done. Thank you.
All right, that seems to be all the speakers and all the council comment. That was the final blue card, right?
That's the final blue card.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. You can call the vote.
District 4?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 8?
Yes.
District 9?
Yes.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
Motion is approved. Ordinance 73, 2017, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the Unified Development Code so as to reclassify the property of Wilfred J. and Ann D. Bonaventure, case number ZON 2017-12, 163 North Long Street rezoning, located generally on the corner east of North Long Street and north of Bertrand Drive, from residential single-family and industrial light to commercial heavy.
Motion by Nakam, second by Castile. Council discussion. There is none. Any blue cards? Please call the vote.
6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 8?
Yes.
District 9? District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3? District 4?
Yes.
Motion is approved. Ordinance 74, 2017, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the Unified Development Code so as to reclassify the property of Vernon Goodo and Two Brothers Properties LLC, case number ZON 2017-13, 700 block of Voorhees Street rezoning, located generally on the corner south of Voorhees Street and west of St. John Street, from residential mixed and commercial heavy to mixed-use neighborhood.
Motion by Nakam, second by Castile. Council discussion. There is none. Any blue cards? Please call the vote.
District 7?
Yes.
District 8?
Yes.
District 9?
Yes.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3? District 4?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
Motion is approved. Ordinance 75, 2017, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the Unified Development Code so as to reclassify the property of Bradley Broussard LLC and Baltic Real Estate LLC, case number ZON 2017-14, 900 block of East Broussard Road rezoning, located generally north of East Broussard Road, east of Thames Drive, and west of Kali Saloom Road, from mixed-use neighborhood conditional to commercial mixed.
Motion by Nakam, second by Abear. Council discussion. There is none. Any blue cards?
Nicholas St. Romain, only if you have questions.
I don't
And
think there are any
Andre
questions.
Montanay.
I know Andre, you Nick?
I'm Nick.
Okay,
yes.
so you're speaking?
No,
to
just if
this
there's
matter?
any questions to his
Okay,
comments.
Yeah, okay, I don't think there is any.
Mr. St. Romain is the owner. I'm here to represent him. They're looking to, rezone his property from mixed-use neighborhood to commercial mixed-use. This is the same zoning classification for the property along Grand Point subdivision. The St. Romain family is looking to put a convenience store on the site, and the store would be brick and stucco exterior. They're looking at putting, their investment would be about $5 million in the land, the building, and the inventory. The city's talking about taxes tonight. They estimate that they generate about $150,000 in sales taxes per year for the city. So we would hope that you would go along with the rezoning of the property, and, we feel it would be a useful project.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Any other blue cards? All right, call the vote.
District 8?
Yes.
District 9? District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3? District 4?
Yes.
District 6? Yes. District 7? Motion is approved. Ordinance 76, 2017, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council approving a conditional use permit to allow a bar lounge in a commercial mixed zoning district, case number ZON 2017-15, 811 and 813 Foreman Drive conditional use permit located generally southwest of Foreman Drive, northwest of Dulles Drive, and east of Marie Antoinette Street.
Motion by Mr. Conk, second by Mr. Nakane. Okay, I indicated earlier that that will be an amendment, so I'm going to allow Mr. Conk to share that amendment with us. Members, if you could please follow along.
Thank you, sir. It's in our folders. As noted, this is a conditional use permit, and one of the conditions that was imposed by the zoning commission was no permit for the expansion of the building shall be approved. And what happened was, a couple of days after the zoning commission recommendation was made, we adopted the no smoking ordinance, and the owner, Mr. Abshire, was left with a situation where he had no place to accommodate smokers who would come to his facility. So what I'm asking is that we delete the condition that says no permit for expansion and replace it with the only permit approved for the expansion of this building shall be for a covered smoking area as shown on the attached drawing entitled Building Renovation for My Place Bar and Grill. And what it is, it's a 6-foot by 18-foot wide platform covered on the outside of the building. So that would accommodate the new ordinance that went into effect immediately after the zoning commission recommendation, and I would ask for council concurrence on this amendment.
All right, that's being offered by Mr. Conk. You second. Mr. Nakane is seconding that. So, any council discussion on the amendment, first of all? Is this on the amendment, Mr. Terrio? No? Okay, we're going to come back to you. So, any council discussion on the amendment? Okay. For those who signed in, do we have any blue cards for this matter?
Yes, sir. Milton Abshire signed in and to see if he wants to speak on the
Is that
amendment.
the only one?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Mr. Abshire, where's Mr. Abshire? Mr. Abshire, just to let you know, this is the amendment, so I'm giving you an opportunity to speak to the amendment, or you could speak to the ordinance after this amendment is addressed.
If I needed to speak, I would go.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I think we're okay. You the owner? No. Okay. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll keep you on board for speaking to the ordinance itself. Okay? Keep him on board for that. Okay, so there's no council discussion on the amendment. No, he wants to speak to the ordinance. Oh, yeah. And that's the only blue card we had signed up, right? Okay, all right. So, let's first call the vote on the amendment.
District 9?
Yes.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes?
District 6?
Yes.
District 7? District 8? Motion to amend is approved.
Okay, Mr. Terry, did you hear that you're not showing up? Oh, there you go. Okay, Mr. Terrio, and now this is council discussion on the ordinance as it has been amended, everybody.
Yes. Ms. Carla, if you don't mind, come up for a moment. Seeing that we're going to be having some discussions about bars,
Yes, sir.
lounges here in a little bit, naturally, the first question I had was, we're approving a conditional use permit
Yes.
to allow a bar or lounge in a commercial mixed zoning district.
Yes.
Their first question was, why do we need a conditional permit to allow somebody in a commercial mixed?
So our use table now in the UDC has 3 types of uses or 3 types of categories, either permitted, prohibited, or a middle ground essentially, which is a conditional use permit. So in zoning districts, in commercial mixed and mixed neighborhood, bars are conditional uses. If a particular property wants to open a bar or a property owner wants to have a bar in their location, the only way they can do it is to go through effectively what is the same as the rezoning process and ask the zoning commission and you all for the right to do so. So they are asking for a property right to have a bar on their establishment, and then the zoning commission put conditions on that request.
Okay. And this bar/lounge would be classified as what? If you look in the next discussion items coming up, you've got 3 different categories. Where would you put this one?
I might defer to Paul to help me for the quick answer. So this is on premise, it's a bar. So they would get an on-premise bar permit.
Yes.
So it would be a bar
Yes.
permit.
Oh, yes, it'll be a bar permit.
Okay. In addition to this, within 300 feet, are there any schools or churches of this particular location?
That, I think Sally, when they apply for the alcohol permit, would double check, but our preliminary research was no.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Mr. Conk?
The other major condition is that it applies only to the person who made the application, to the person who will actually own and operate the bar. It is not transferable when they, in whatever instance, would pass it on to someone else. That's critical, because we are relying upon the integrity of the person who made the application to do exactly as he says he intends to do. So that's important. And the other point about this, it's one of the the consequences that we did not anticipate is that right next door, he could do the same thing without even going through the process, because the zoning is different.
Correct.
I mean, there are two buildings side by side. He had to make the request. If he had used the building next door, there would be no request and no action tonight. So it was a very unusual situation that we've identified, and hopefully we've approached it in a way that is good for the neighborhood and good for the business that this person intends to operate. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council discussion on the ordinance for consideration as it has been amended? Okay. Blue cards.
Milton Abshire.
Mr. Abshire.
Good afternoon. I'm Milton Abshire. I have a question on your last statement of the ownership. Going into me and my wife, family operated. So when I put my name on something, I need to include all our names, right?
That would be best addressed to your legal counsel.
Okay. And that's all I have.
Okay, and thank you very much for all the cooperation you provided on this.
Thank you.
Do not speak.
Thank y'all for y'all's help.
They did not.
Okay. Is that the only speaker?
Two citizens did sign in, did not wish to speak, but is in support of the ordinance.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the ordinance has been amended, so now we're gonna vote on it as it has been amended.
District 9?
Yes.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7? Yes. District 8? Yes. Motion is approved, as amended. Ordinance 77, 2017, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council approving a conditional use permit to allow a bed and breakfast in the downtown zoning district, case number ZON 2017-16, 422 Garfield Street conditional use permit, located generally southwest of Garfield Street, northwest of Johnson Street, and southeast of Lee Avenue.
Motion by Nakir. Second by Conk. Y'all moving a little slow tonight, y'all. That pork chop sitting on y'all. Council discussion. Seeing none, any blue cards? Please call the vote.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4? Yes. District 6?
Yes.
District 7? Yes. District 8? Yes. District 9? Motion is approved. Ordinance 78, 2017, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council authorizing and directing the Lafayette Mayor President to execute an electric franchise agreement with the City of Youngsville.
Motion by Lewis, all right. Second by Conk. Council discussion. There is none, any blue cards?
Andrew Hebert.
Stay bad. You was slow, you gonna wait.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll try to be brief. Does LPUA set the rates for this ordinance? And is there a companion LPUA agreement for this ordinance? Because I believe LPUA is the governing authority of LUS, according to the charter. And the agreement should be with LPUA as a companion ordinance to this. Because this ordinance says that the LCG will set the rates, approve the rates for this agreement. Now, as far as I know, it's in Section 8, by the way. As far as I know, the LPUA sets all the utility rates because they have a majority of city residents, owners, in their district. That's 5 of y'all. So, will these customers have representation on the LPUA board to discuss their utility rates? Because the governing authority of a public utility, the public service commissioners for a public-owned utility, is the governing authority. So that means these customers in Youngsville, which I believe, Mr. Nakan, you represent Youngsville. No? That's District 9? Oh, Mr. Terrio? Okay, I'm sorry. Too many numbers tonight. You represent District 9, so, but you're not on the LPUA board. So how are your customers in your district going to discuss, get to vote on a public service commissioner to discuss their rates? It's going to be difficult, you know? So, and that's where it boils back down to taxation with equal representation. The reason I say that is because in the rate structure that you approve by LPUA, it says tax additions. It doesn't say in lieu of tax additions. It says tax additions, go see the in lieu of tax formula. So in essence, the LPUA board is a taxing agency that imposes taxes on ratepayers. What's unfortunate is that 20,000 city ratepayers currently under the city don't have representation on that taxing board. And if